Good afternoon, everyone. And it's always a pleasure connecting with Dr. Harish Shetty and Justice Roshan Dalvi, a former judge of Bombay High Court. Both have come on our platform and they have always shared our knowledge, which is always well received. And when we talk about, as and when, especially when the pandemic, etc., come across, we talk of mental strength and mental health also. So that mental health would always be a perimeter for the purposes of all aspects, and it has its wide spectrum of aspects to be covered. And I would request Justice Roshan Dalvi to just give an introduction, because we will be carrying this session, not this session, this into two parts. Today is on the mental health approach, the soft skills, and the next part would be soft skills on the legal perspective. Justice Roshan Dalvi and Dr. Harish Shetty, as such, do not require any introduction because they have created their niche worldwide because of the way they share the knowledge. Over to you, Justice Roshan Dalvi.
Good evening, friends, and good evening, Dr. Shetty. It's nice to do something co-curricular. All along, I've been going into the curriculum of lawyers and judges. So it's very good today that we are going to do something and hear someone which relates to us, but from outside. So it's an outsider's perspective we are going to have. Now, always we talk about IQ, that is the intelligence quotient. And lawyers and judges have a very high IQ. But what about EQ? We also have KQ, the knowledge quotient. But we may be low on EQ. And as someone has said, winners are ordinary people with extraordinary heart. And Dr. Shetty shows us how to show that. I would say, in one word, you can smile. Smile all the way. It is the longest word in the English language, smiles, because there is a mile in between the two S's. But Dr. Shetty would tell us how we can really do our crisis management when we have stress, how we can take care of our health, how we can put our family into our business lives, improve our confidence, and accordingly our self-esteem. And all that makes up the emotional energy quotient. He would call it the emotional energy bank. So we are going to have to deposit a lot of his knowledge into our bank account. So Dr. Shetty, there's no point my going on talking about things I don't know. We'd rather hear from you because you know all. You have to unmute yourself, Doctor.
I would like to have the screen sharing also. I thank you a lot for introducing me and introducing the subject so beautifully, Honorable Justice Roshanji, and we are very grateful to Madam for getting this topic on this platform. And she had a long chat with me the other day and said, you should do soft skills and I will do legal skills later. And thank you for this opportunity, and I'm so grateful to you. Let me say that all you guys here are basically very wise, with a lot of wisdom across time, and a lot of experience through a million interactions you've had inside the court premises, inside different professional premises, and also inside your family, etc. Before I start, I pay obeisance to two great people, Rishi Patanjali and Rishi Gautam Buddha. Why? You ask me why. Well, for the world, they are philosophers. But for us, people in science, they are scientists. Patanjali gave us yoga, and Gautam Buddha gave us Vipassana. And both extremely important. Mindful people reach to the top. Unmindful people sit and complain in their drawing rooms in their 40s that there's all politics involved, and they become so cynical and they become blamers that their growth is halted. Those who are mindful, as ma'am said beautifully, they rise with the big hearts and a bountiful of knowledge. My dear friends, the RNA virus also has reminded you and me and all of us that equanimity is alignment of self with the cosmos. You might call it God, cosmos, whatever. And Samantha, as Lord Buddha said, emotional regulation, as psychologists and psychiatrists always would say, is the key for us to share whatever we have, to apologize as and we can, to learn from brothers and sisters and fellow colleagues, and also keep our antennas open so that we do not miss any insight from the cosmos. And equanimity is the most important tool which we need to develop across time. So alignment of mind and body is mental health. Alignment of the self with cosmos is equanimity. So ultimately, man is a bundle of thoughts, feelings, sensations, and behavior. And let me tell you, dear friends, though in 2019 December, the Minister of Health said, in India, 1 out of 7 Indians are mentally ill, 20 crore Indians are mentally ill, 200 million. But why? Brain has not changed the size, shape, color, weight, volume, texture, or function. But the environment has changed, and that's why things are getting worse. And the first rule for all lawyers, doctors, professionals are, let us not lock our minds. The day when we lose a case, the day when the opposite lawyer seeks for adjournment, and we lose our patience, and we explode. Let that explosion not be inside. If you share, you will not explode. But if you hold back, you're going to explode on somebody else, or we will explode at places where we should not. So remember this mantra. If people here are interested in tattooing, let them tattoo this sentence: locked minds are time bombs. Diffuse it early, lest it explodes inside us. 2 minutes about the pandemic, because pandemic has had a great impact on us. And let me tell you the 6 differences between any disaster and a pandemic. Well, when I worked at Latur, Usmanabad, Kandla after the cyclone, Mumbai after the floods, and Gujarat after the riots, we were all told, "Ye sab Bhagwan ka kissa hai, apne haath mein kuch nahi hai." And this time, this disaster, this pandemic is all about science. It's about mRNA virus, RNA virus, and which is why people of science told us that mosques, temples, and churches need to be closed. That's one difference, not fatalism, but science. The second most important difference is, in an earthquake, the impact phase is just a few seconds. In other places, for example, a flood or a cyclone, you may have a long impact phase. Continuously for a few days to few weeks. But in the COVID, we had an impact phase of more than 24 months, 22, 24 months. Huge numbers have died. Latur, 8,000 plus people have died, and cyclone, 3,000 plus people have died in the riots in Delhi. Again, a few thousand, but here it's more than 4 lakhs in India. The next important difference is the isolation. We could not really take care of our loved ones. We could not escort them to the loos. We could not feed them. We could not be with them. Invisibility of the virus is invisible. This is an enemy which is invisible, and COVID terrorists are those who sold everything in black and made a big buck. So there's the 6 important differences. The last slide on COVID is, most of the time when somebody dies in a building, you see empathy all around. When somebody dies in a family, you see empathy all around. But when too many people die, there is apathy because the mind shuts down. The fear is so much that we're not able to empathize with people around. The fear really causes numbness, and it is seen across disasters when there has been a pandemic. If you read the book by Chinmay Tumbe of the last pandemic, you'll see that during the last pandemic in the country, after the death, people were auctioning their things, and there was no place for empathy, no place for any compassion to the family. There was no time. So apathy is also a part of this entire process. And apart from empathy, in a pandemic, you see apathy, and that can change us. And that can really change us, and we have to be very alert. Antipathy also. My father, I will not allow him to go to the hospital to see his sister who has recovered from the pandemic, but now is still unconscious, because I'm worried about my father, because if something happens to him, I will be upset. A brother will fire his sister who's recovering in a jumbo because he believes that she got the COVID with which parents passed away because she had gone to work. So COVID has divided families. COVID also has divided communities, and this is something very important. And so in the COVID pandemic, apathy, empathy, and antipathy existed together. So what are the metaphorical learnings from the virus? Just as virus mutates for the worst, human behavior has to mutate for the best. In fact, a lot of doctors have become more compassionate. A lot of senior doctors who are very stoic and who would not say hello to their patients in the lift have started being very humble and very caring, because one little virus has taught them and taught all of us that we are temporary travelers on the earth. And a lot of senior advocates, I'm told, also say hello to their juniors, not only in the bar, but even on the street. A lot of advocates who really belong to big companies are able to smile a little more during COVID, and that is what I hear. I do not know, but I'm sure that human beings are mutating for the best, knowing fully well that in this short journey, compassion, humility, and wisdom has to go together. And as I say this, let's look at what makes a human being mentally able to regulate his feelings, experience samanta, as Bhagwan Buddha said. In Pali, he had a different word. Experience equanimity, as we speak in English, and do all the mindful exercises across the globe, in every college, is patented. But Buddha gave Vipassana free of cost across the entire world. Patanjali gave his yoga free of cost to the entire world. The first step is awareness of feelings. If you have to break your complexes, if you have to feel equal in spite of the hierarchy, if you have to feel equal as human beings in spite of what you have earned, laurels or money, awareness of feelings is the most important thing. And if you are able to manage anger, you're able to manage everything. Anger is an artifact of the 21st century, whether it's an aeroplane where people rush to the cockpit because the plane did not really land at the right time, and the pilot was very scared because the center of gravity of the plane is disturbed. Or as we rush to any office and shout and scream because globalization has increased the disconnection, decreased the connection, and even people, when they die, we only know on the notice board, number of people attending funerals have gone down. Anger on the streets is very well known. People kill each other when there's something happening between two vehicles. So anger personally is a normal emotion. Absolutely normal. Aggression is an abnormal state. Humiliation is an abnormal state. Irritability is anger in motion. And when people come and say, I can't hold my anger, I said it could be your trait. It could be your imitating, because in Indian families, they say, ye to baap jaisa gaya, baap ko bhi bahut gussa aata hai, isko bhi bahut gussa. And it is really, this macho image is reinforced by mothers and fathers. Bahut gusse wala hai, kuch nahi kar sakte. अरे यार सब कुछ कर सकते हैं. भगवान बुद्ध ने कहा है स्वभाव में बदलाव आ सकता है. It is possible, but anger is normal, my dear friends. But there are some people who say हमारे family में किसी को गुस्सा नहीं आता. Let me tell you that medical bills are very high because they are not aware of what is happening inside, and feelings undergo chemical reactions. If you're not aware of your anger, it becomes resentment. Resentment, I can't stand him. I can't stand it. I saw him in court number 43 at the High Court and I really can't stand it. I don't know. I don't know. I have no reason, but I really can't stand him. Behind the behavior is a story. And behind the story, there are many stories. So awareness of anger, should not get converted into resentment. If you block your resentment, it gets converted into hostility. I will do whatever, but I'll get this guy bailed. I'll do whatever, but I'll get this guy bailed. Whatever is a very loaded word. Hostility can get converted into rage. So anger can follow anger, resentment, hostility, hate, and rage. And when we say that, and when we actually say that, awareness of all feelings are important. Let me tell you, first is awareness of मुझे गुस्सा आती है, मुझे अब मत्सर आता है, मुझे अभी अच्छा नहीं लगता है, अनकंफर्टेबल हूं, मुझे बहुत प्यार आ रहा है इस व्यक्ति के ऊपर. Awareness of feelings. Identify the feeling, acknowledge the feeling, accept the feeling, experience the feeling, and largely exhaust the feeling. I was very angry at my wife, but I did not hold it for a long time. Indian husbands have a very beautiful method. They don't talk to their wives for a long time. She should understand how do you feel. अरे कैसे पता चलेगा यार, जिंदगी निकल जाएगी, हार्ट अटैक आ जाएगा, बताने में भी आपको समय नहीं मिलेगा. अरे यार, on the virus has taught us. Finish it on that day. Yeah, I'm angry at you. Why? Because in front of everybody, I'm a big lawyer, but in front of everybody, you said something which I really was hurt. And when you share your feelings with your loved ones, don't convert it into adjectives. I felt sad that you were angry and you expressed things which I did not like. You can't say, I don't like you as a wife. You're a useless wife. Adjectives disconnect. Feelings connect. I'm so angry with you, my son, with all the facilities I give you. You've really not done well. I'm so angry with you. Anger, sharing anger is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm so jealous of you. Like, boy, we both started our practice at the same time, but tu kidhar, main kidhar, yaar, tu karta kya hai, yaar? Tu kiya kya hai, yaar? So beautiful. Feelings connect, adjectives disconnect, sarcasm breaks a relationship. If you have traveled the third class, second class compartment of Indian Railways, in a suburban train or any train, you'll find people coming back from their offices, abusing their bosses. They won't go anywhere. You find people down in the canteen, in the courts, talking unsavory things about each other and even their seniors. These guys don't go. Well, black humor occasionally is okay. But when I lose a patient to suicide, my dear lawyers, we sit down and have a death conference. We sit down and really look at every possibility where we could have saved the patient. We sit down and introspect. Did we say something different? Did we change a drug? Did he stop counseling? Did he actually stop follow-up? Did we phone him up because he or she has stopped his follow-up, so that we look at him whether he's okay or not? We do a death conference. And every time one fails, it's very therapeutic to blame. You feel nice for some time, temporarily. मजा आता है. अला वो जज बैस था, वो तो ये बेंच ही खराब है, ये बेंच ही खराब है, तो मैं बहुत बार सुना हूं. I work very, very closely with the law enforcing agencies. ये bench खराब है. Initially, I did not understand. I was wondering which bench people are talking about. And I would also say that about my senior doctors when I was younger. I would say, "Yala, ye boss, he doesn't look at me, doesn't talk to me. When I call him, he finishes me in 3 minutes. But when somebody else calls him, he takes 10 minutes. We also feel, all professions." But slowly I understood. And I understood more during the pandemic that you have to continue doing your job. Nishkam karma karte rehna chahiye. Things happen automatically, and the providence conspires at some point of time. You can't fail. But the point is, are we able to manage our anger? And that is so important. And then this is a beautiful sentence which came to me one of the days when I was brushing my teeth. The best sentence is, The best thoughts come when you brush your teeth or you're walking up and down. Casual conversations also give you a lot of insight. For me, a casual conversation with a sitting judge or a retired judge, with Madam Roshanji also, so often. Lectures you learn, but casual chats, and you learn so much. But then if you do not handle your anger, all of us have a hate list. When I say all of us have hate list, many people object. Huh? They say, "Itna strong statement, mat bolo. Hate me. I do not like this fellow. I do not like that fellow." You know what I always tell people, that we can never choose our parents and our colleagues and our benches. You can't. You can only choose your in-laws and even change them if necessary. Providence brings them next to you. They sit there next to you because it's all destiny. Kainat hai wo. It's all prarabdha. And what is very important is, you may not like your fellow judge, you may not like your fellow lawyer, you may not like your secretary of your bar association. But respect is more important than liking. Respect means accept him exactly as he is. Providence has brought him next to me. He's arguing on the other side. He has a long experience. My hands are shaking. He has a long experience. My hands are shaking. He may have a long experience, but I will do my nishkam karma. I will put across the facts as I believe and as I like. And that gives you the strength. When you see 20 lawyers with all the entire battery on the court, I've seen that. I've attended so many hearings. And you see alone battling this battle with 20. Don't worry at all. Ultimately, what will decide is what you do, what the work you did previous night and across the night, and do it with absolute equanimity. Do it as if you're doing something at your best. Intense hate anywhere interferes with love everywhere. You can't hate your in-laws and love your spouse. You can't hate your principal, school principal or class teacher and expect you to learn the subject. Doesn't happen. You can't really hate your boss in your law firm so intensely and be able to work dispassionately. No, it doesn't happen at all. Intense hate anywhere interferes with love everywhere. And this is a very important point for doctors, lawyers, and everybody. And this you can work on yourself. You don't need a psychiatrist or a psychologist to really work on this. You know, my dear friends, हिंदी में कहते हैं मुफट, मराठी में कहते हैं फटकल, तो तुलु में हम कहते हैं कि बारी जोर दे, वो बोल देता है, वो जुगलबंदी जीतने की उसे इच्छा है. तुमने ये बोला, मैंने ये बोल दिया. मैंने क्या उसको, the way I told him, I saw his face going pink and blue. How does that help, my dear friends? Amygdaloid body was a small part of the brain, the blue there, which was very useful during the Stone Age when we were warriors, eating berries and fruits and hunting animals. And we were prepared with the bows and arrows and our spears, and that was necessary to save us from death. It was fight, flight, freeze or fright. Fight, freeze, fright or flight. जान बचाने के लिए एमिग्डालॉइड काम आता था स्टोन एज के समय. बट फिर हम हल चलाने लगे. हल चलाए तो चावल उगाए, गेहूं उगाए, सेफ्टी हुई, शांतता मिली, घर बांधे, एंड हमने बाउंड्री वॉल भी किया. Amygdaloid calmed down. We learned to converse. We started using our prefrontal cortex. मुफट लोगों को कोई शादी में नहीं बुलाता है, मुफट लोगों को कोई पार्टी में नहीं बुलाता. अंदर से अच्छा है, पर वो वहां के आके कुछ तो गड़बड़ करेगा, कुछ तो बोल देगा. And I see so many learned lawyers, brilliant, but they can't hold their anger. They break relationships. They break friendships because they're not able to tame their amygdaloid. They're not aware of their prefrontal cortex and they get emotionally hijacked. 15 साल की दोस्ती आधे घंटे में खत्म हो जाती है. And a person who listens to all the assault cannot forgive this person, though he has been good for 15 years. And so many wise people are rotting in their drawing rooms because they have become muffat, cynical, and wanting to win an argument, but not wanting to win the battle of life. So be careful. And if you read about emotional hijacking, my dear friends, Read about it. Yoga, Vipassana, Sudarshan Kriya, Shambhavi, Mahamudra, Tasbih, Rosary, and ability to regulate your feelings will shift you to the prefrontal cortex, and you will not utter things which will really cause a lot of damage to you and to everybody around. Indians are good at Jugalbandi. Americans are good at the orchestra. They can get work done from different people and they can organize a team and execute it. That's why their NASA satellites land on the Mars, because they can manage a team. They do not bother what language you have. You have this expertise and they can build the orchestra. Indians were good at Jugalbandi, but slowly we are getting good at the orchestra also. So prefrontal cortex, remember one thing, please read about emotional hijacking and do whatever you like to attain equanimity, and that is so important. Sadness is a positive emotion, depression is a negative state. The day when we lose our patient, we are very sad. The worst day for a psychiatrist and a psychologist when their own clients, own patients commit suicide. We are very scared. We go home, we share with our family that we lost a patient. We feel the sadness. We don't block the sadness. I still remember a heart doctor not being able to share bad news. Doctors, many doctors, not all, but large number of good doctors are able to share bad news. But sharing bad news is very difficult. When you succeed in a case, the doctor is in front of the patient, but when the patient dies, most of the times it's left to the assistant. And I still remember this entire episode of Abdul Kalam. When the rocket fell into the sea, Abdul Kalam's senior, I forget his name, took the press conference, and the next rocket, when it really went the way it was expected to, his senior said, Abdul Kalam, you should take the press conference. Well, accept that you have failed or you have lost, and don't block your emotions. I understand. I learned one thing from the legal profession. Even after you lose, you sit down in your room and have tea together. Fantastic. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things I have learned from the legal profession. But sometimes you go home, you don't know what to do, and that's the time you need a safe space and a safe net, and express sadness as it is. But sadness is a very important emotion. Apart from yoga, vipassana, empathy comes also from sadness. Sadness is the flower pot. Empathy is the growing plant, and that is so important. Very common emotion. Well, this is not the right picture for this emotion. The right picture would be two professionals, two doctors with two hospitals staring at each other. Very common. When very common. I still remember when I really lost an interview as a consultant in the hospital, and I wrote the application for my friend. He was not interested in appearing for this entire interview. I wrote his application. I forced him to come for the interview, and he got the job. Sometimes it's not in our hands. You might try your best. There are 2 apples and 3 applicants. There's 1 case and 2 lawyers. There are 2 hospitals, 1 small, 1 big. You can't. At the end of the day, you know that you will win few and lose. And I'm sure that a lot of senior advocates here who have experienced for for long innings, exactly know how to really manage envy and jealousy. I saw some names whom I know, and they exactly know how to really, and a lot of bar association meetings should focus on how you feel during different times. So self-esteem, self-reliance, and seeking help are actually related. And the most important learning I have learned is, if you have to manage your complexes, antennas to khula rehna chahiye. In schools, you don't learn all this. Schools, we say, he's a bad teacher, he's a good teacher, I don't like this teacher, and you close your antenna completely. And I tell all school students and teachers also, when I take workshops, I tell them, anybody on this earth can really teach you so many things if your antennas are open. I've learned my maximum mental health from my patients. Illiterate patients teach you the most because there is no sensor. They process emotions without cognitive self, but with their feeling as well as with the brain. Once a patient said, Dr. Shetty, पढ़ाई और पहलवानी का उम्र होता है, निकल गई तो गई. And once a mother said, Dr. Saab, वो प्यार क्या है जिससे पढ़ाई का त्याग करना पड़े, मेरे बेटी को समझाओ. So keeping your antennas open and alert, which means accepting people exactly as they are. You have to mine gold from every conversation to break your complexes. Ultimately, the coronavirus has taught us that we are just a small speck in the entire cosmos. And Honorable Justice Raghuram says it beautifully in the National Judicial Academy. He shows a video for that Earth also is a very small speck in the entire universe or universe. And when you think about that, you're able to respect people around. As I said, respect is more important than love. I repeat that sentence. We can choose our parents. We can never choose our parents, nor our neighbors, or even our colleagues, or the bench. Mine gold from every conversation. Reflect in your mind. Unhone kya bola, maine kya bola. And always after I write an article, next day I feel I should have written this. I should have written that, and that is what I learned. After a lecture, I always say, "Arey, ye point मैंने नहीं बताया, अगले बार इसको मैं improvise करूँगा." Reflection automatically आता है. I learn from everybody around me. My son once said, Daddy, you don't crack so many jokes. Huh? They will miss the substance and they will remember the jokes. And he was only 12. Simplest minds are the most profound. Your children who are very small, they're simple, but the simplest minds are the most profound. They can come up with something beautiful. Kill shame and seek help. When people kill shame and seek help, there are less suicides. When you kill shame and seek help, you learn a lot. When you kill shame and seek help, in our profession, there's something known as the second opinion. But we have converted into a shared opinion. A 60-year-old psychiatrist or a 50-year-old psychiatrist can throw a case to a 28-year-old young psychiatrist who can review the case again and come up with something which you have never thought. Which you can never thought. So important to kill shame. And so these complexities which are very important can grow because of so many other reasons. Number one, also, if you have very bad stories of childhood, you have been criticized completely. You might be a great perspective-based professional, but when you come on the stage, you forget everything. Excessive criticism has numbed your state of mind, but has not killed the wisdom and perspective learning. Resilience and fragility can go hand in hand. You might be extremely resilient in the morning, extremely fragile in the evening. You can be extremely resilient in a courtroom, but very fragile when you argue with the rickshaw while on the road. Growth is not equal in all areas of life. So it's so important to really kill shame. Yaar, mujhe nahi pata hai ye kya karna. My wife asked me in the morning, I want to see to it that I have two Casio. You should give it to an agency which would need it. And I had to think and said, yes, I will ask somebody and do it. I don't know. There are so many things I don't know. And when you remember that there are so many things I don't know, I think the most important thing is kill shame, seek help. Evolution starts from above. And the courtroom is one of the most democratic forums, with the judges sitting with the books open and asking the lawyers, do you have any citations, any case reports? That does not happen in the medical school. And this is one of the most important things I've learned in a courtroom. Books are open. The top judge from the city opens and says, I see this. Can you add something on this? And that is something which is so beautiful about the legal field. My dear friends, everybody says I have no time, but people who do a lot of things can find time. So self-awareness would mean whatever happens, your phones are away, at least 15 minutes of pranayam, at least half an hour of exercise. I walked 7,500 feet in the morning inside my house. 15 minutes of come what may. World can run without us. World does not need us all the time, and self-awareness is so important. And for breaking those complexes, no shortcuts. Huh? A lot of doctors at the age of 50 have an identity crisis. Humne zindagi mein kya kiya? I said, you have served your patients. That is so beautiful. And those who have taken shortcuts for victories, when they close their eyes and sleep, it haunts them. It haunts them. Even if they suppress it, it haunts them. It haunts them. Let things do not haunt you. You might actually lose a battle, but the war of life is something you will win. And the war of life is much longer than the battle. My dear friends, when I used to get low marks, I would blame the teacher. Oh, this teacher is anti non-Maharashtrians in school. In the schools we had this, and this teacher is a North Indian or a Punjabi. She doesn't like me. She likes that Mr. Mehra and Mr. Vora, whatever. And it's so important to not lose to blame and always think about blooming would mean perspective thinking, sitting down and cutting things into pieces and telling ourselves, this is what I should have done, this is what he did, this is what I should have done, this is what I did. I think I learned, I lost, but I learned. And that is so important. Do you want to become a bloomer or a blamer? And it really kills your complex. You can walk with an open heart, a clean mind, and your walk and your gaze will be absolutely powerful. Your state of being will be very good. My dear friends, all of us need safe spaces where we can talk what we like. I have a safe space of my schoolmates. We talk twice a week. 1 hour. We know each other since we were in short pants. We know each other when we used to pee in the same loo. We know each other when we used to chase the same girls. We know each other since the time we were nobody. And the nobody gang is more important than the somebody gang. The nobody gang is so important than the somebody gang. And I learned from Professor Srinivas Murthy and today from Dr. Shashank Joshi that if you feel that this guy is an opponent, go and meet him. I still remember Professor Murthy took me to a house of a person who probably did not like him the most. And I said, sir, how can you do this? I said, that's the best way to break walls. And he sat down, they had a cup of tea, and the warmth which happens when you go and go across to your opponent in his house or her house. Maybe somebody would say, वो आज क्यों आया, कुछ तो मतलब होगा. नहीं यार, सिर्फ चाय पीने को जाने का, उसमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. गाड़ी की साइज कितना बड़ा हो, प्रैक्टिस का साइज कितना बड़ा हो, तुम्हारे पास कितने जूनियर से का फर्क पड़ता है बॉस. बाद में तो यमदूत तुमको क्या स्पेशल ट्रेन से ऊपर नहीं ले जाएगा, वो तो अग्नि लगेगा ही ना. प्यार जो करते हैं वो तो मट्टी आपके ऊपर डालेंगे ना. So going across to your opponent, whom you believe is an opponent, in your perception, there is no opponents on the earth. It's all a perception. So important. Mindfulness, whatever you like, will help you to break your complexes. Friends, are your antennas open? I hate this word. This man he has a strong mind. What strong mind? Some jhoot hai. You might be strong in some places. They're not strong at all places. When I see a mosquito, I get very scared because I might get dengue. But when I see a patient with great difficulty, I'm challenged to do my best. I'm very scared. I was very scared of the corona virus. And to beat that scare, I said, I will not sit at home, but I will go to my clinic every day and my hospital and sit with my mask and see what I can do. So nourishing the mind is so important. Now, my dear friends, don't look on the right side. Look on the left side. Black Dog was the name which Winston Churchill gave to his depression. And the WHO has come up with the 4-minute movie that exercise can beat depression, mild depression, and which is researched. The World Health Organization would not say something out of the hat. And it's so important to do mindful exercising. People say, no, I walk from Churchgate station to the High Court. That is not exercise because you're not mindful. You're thinking about the 11:20 hearing which is there. Exercise is mindful. You are in the mood of exercise. You're thinking about exercise. You're walking with joy. You're exercising with joy, and you feel the sweat coming down. It's not that your blood sugar has gone down. It's not that your heart rate has come down. It is the dopamine, oxytocin, norepinephrine, which comes to the mind. And I start my day with 7,500 steps walking inside the house. I don't want to go to the gym with all this scare of the virus. And so exercise also helps you to elevate your mood and speak to people straight. And complexes go down when you actually exercise. It dissolves your tears, fears, and anger. Standalone sentence. I don't want to say anything more. A word about women. Well, in spite of education, Indian woman is still the same. I want to be a great lawyer. I want to be a great judge. I want to be the great husband, great mother, great wife, and great daughter. No, yeah. Enough of all this nonsense. My wife says, the head of the pomfret is tasty. I said, no, it's not tasty. There's nothing in the head. And it was supposed to be a delicacy which had to be served. Head had nothing, but we really gave it such a name by giving it only to the mothers to eat. The flesh of the pomfret is for the boy, the tail is for the boy, the middle piece is for the boy. Come on now, it's enough of all this nonsense. अपने त्याग के घोड़े से उतर जाओ, अपनी जिंदगी की मोमबत्ती दोनों बाजू से मत जलाओ. Enough of this nonsense. And do you want to be a martyr or a manager? And let me tell you, my dear friends, imperfect home is a happy home. Imperfect kitchen is a happy house. Imperfect mother is a happy wife. An imperfect wife is a happy marriage. So do not strive for perfection inside the house all the time. Gives you good health, breaks complexities. Strive for consistency and not perfection in your home. Perfection has to be in your work, and that is so important. So my dear friends, as we slowly stop, if you do not take care of your mind, either you have a grandiose sense of yourself, either you feel you're the best on the earth, till you're grounded by somebody very young and very small in the courtroom. Happens so many times. And it happens because there's a cortisol rain in the brain, and the hypothalamus-pituitary adrenal axis goes haywire, and the hypothalamus releases all the chemicals, but the adrenal glands doesn't function properly, and there's a steroid rain in the brain that can be brought down by mindfulness and exercise. My dear friends, what we see now is a lot of sleep issues. And new research has said good sleep will give you immunity. And we need to focus on the sleep. Problems in concentration, anxiety, irritability, grief, and bad memories. Most of it can be managed by yoga, mindfulness, any form of mindfulness, exercise, and focusing on good sleep. If not, then you need to take help and need to take the help of a physician and a mental health professional. As I close, my dear friends, building does not stand on one pillar. So stop saying, I am the head of the family. No, yeah. You may be the head of the family because you control the purse strings of the family. A building always stands on many pillars. A family stands on many pillars. There's a small pillar, there's a medium pillar, there's a bigger pillar, and there are bigger pillars, big pillar, small pillar. They all are necessary and they all can help each other. But this big pillar says, I cannot show my vulnerability because they will feel weak. झूठ है. जब बच्चे देखेंगे कि इतना बड़ा लॉयर भी आंसू बहा सकता है घर के अंदर, तो बच्चे कहेंगे ये हमारा ही जैसा है, ये भगवान नहीं है, ये इंसान है. I lost 2 people from my family in the COVID era, my mother's sister and my brother. And I had to take my mother's sister's body and cremate with my nephew. Nobody, because everybody else was positive, I was not. And I still remember both of us crying like little children. He consoling me, me consoling him. So there is no one single pillar. There's no strong mind. Strong mind has opened doors. So it's so important, my dear friends. Remind yourself that you're a human being. You need not be stoic and reticent. You need to be human, and that makes you a great human being. That kills all complexities. Don't have to do anything. And I still remember that when me and my nephew cremated my aunt, when we wept on each other's shoulder, the power of consoling is not only there in the head of the family, but it's also there in every member of the family. And believe me, in COVID times, when I run a support group for those who have lost people in COVID, first lesson I teach is tears are not abnormal. Crying is healthy. Family that cries together heals together. And in UP, one of my patients said this. UP patient, I still remember his name. He was Mr. Yadav, but his first name I forgot. He said, Dr. Saab, आपको पता है 20 साल पहले उसने कहा, जो बह गया वो पानी है, जो रह गया वो जहर है. Don't block your tears, my dear friends. You may be the greatest people in your field. And greatness is perception, it's illusion, it's Maya. Ultimately, when we are born, we are horizontal in a bed of 6 feet by 3 in the hospital, and we die, we are horizontal, approximately 6 feet by 3 feet as we die. So be human, and remember, jo beh gaya wo pani hai, jo reh gaya wo zahar hai. And when everything fails, remember, if you are depressed, Amitabh said, do boon zindagi ki for polio, and I say, do counseling sessions or medication. Depression is very invisible, extremely invisible, and let's take care. Depression is also very cunning. It can come in many disguises. Seek help. In spite of doing everything, this can go haywire. And remember, when you are not able to do things as at the speed which you did earlier, your concentration has gone down, your sleep and appetite is disturbed, you feel lazy or you feel very irritable, and you feel worthless, hopeless, and you feel that one of these things, and you need to seek help. Exhaustion is also a sign of depression. And ultimately, my dear friends, the most powerful emotion on this earth is love. If you want to feel equal to others, remember, on the most difficult day, bring back a memory which is very stirring. I always bring back the memory of my father and mother holding me in my hand when I went to school. What a beautiful memory. Mother feeding me at the chapel at my St. Xavier's High School, Ville Parle, and I still can feel her fingers. My mother's alive, 85-year-old, and so there's nobody on this screen who has not experienced love. Huh? You might have difficult experience, but pyar ka anubhav to sabko hai. Bring back all those little memories in your fantasy and live as if it's happening now. And with this, I just say, let's continue doing our nishkam karma. अरे यार अवार्ड तो चलता रहता है यार, तो अवार्ड नो अवार्ड चलता रहता है, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? मीन आप जज बनोगे या नहीं, ठीक है यार, चलते रहो. But when you sleep at night, you feel that you have done your duty to the best of your ability, and that gives you peace, energy, and equanimity. That also gives you that you can look into the eye of anybody and say what you believe, say what you feel, say what you have learned. Because ultimately, though the earth is round, actually it is flat. You all stand for 40, 60, 70, 80, 90, and if you're unlucky, 100 years, and then slowly you become horizontal at some point of time. With this, I stop. I thank Madam Roshan Dalvi, who I've been associated with for so long, and I've attended her sessions in the past. I've learned so much from her across time, and I'll continue doing that as long as I breathe. Because who's this unfatigable, there is no fatigue in this man. There is no tiredness in this man. Day in and day out, he comes up with some programs all the time. My apologies for not being able to join on time. Something the IMAC did something which I don't know. Now I took up a son's ordinary PC and it opened, everything opened. With this, I thank you for inviting me. I'm open to questions.
Yeah. I can just say that it was a spellbound session and a lot of lessons to be learned across. Regarding the pillars, as they say, that pillars to success are many. And the way you have taken us across to the different pillars, the value of family, as we often say that family would be father and mother, I love you. The true significance of family you have actually explained to us. And the depression what could be the results of the depression, and why you shouldn't feel shy of crying when things are of the emotion should be there. And out here, it's not there. Meanwhile, I can just check it out on the YouTube. Meanwhile, Justice Roshan Dalvi would share her views on this. Meanwhile, I can just check it out.
I am speechless. So on the topic that I can only learn and not teach, I don't think I can say much except that we lawyers now have different lines of profession, and there are different new startups and a whole new way of thinking. So as they say, there is change amid chaos and chaos amid change. We should bring change amid chaos that COVID may have created. And one nice line that I said is, but people said, which is the best body part, the most used body part in COVID? And they said hands, because that is what we wash all the time. Someone said, no, it is the brain which has been washed. And what have we learned from COVID? That we have to share. That we can't even keep vaccinations only for ourselves. Forget everything else. Even by giving vaccinations to others, we would have averted the last disaster, which we failed to do. So I think so many of these soft skills of good living that we learned, we can imbibe. And thank you, Dr. Shetty, for it. And thank you, Vikas, for giving us this kind of platforms, Time in and time out, as Dr. Shetty said, again and again, you are indefatigable. And you continued, I think, for about the 200th time, right? So this is really an info bank that you are creating.
That's only because of people like you.
Thank you,
like
friend.
What Dr. Shetty said, that we are all pillars. One can be a large pillar, one can be a nail, one can be help to cement the relationship. That's paramount. Everybody has to play a role. Dr. Shetty, one question. What is the difference between sadness and depression?
Yes. Sadness is like the raga of Hindustani classical. It comes and goes without reason. I still remember this incident at Dadar station. A woman was crying when she was standing, and we were a group of young mental professionals still learning. And asked the lady, just jaake pucho ki wo kyun ro rahi hai? And she just casually went, and she said, simply. So sadness can come and go. You still retain your occupational functioning. You still manage everything, and it's a feeling of low which can come without reason, with reason, and still you are able to organize yourself and function effectively. Depression is fracture of the mind. Sadness is sprain of the mind. It goes away. And depression is when, in spite of everything, you are slowed down, you feel lazy, you cannot get up from your chair, you feel, Sala, Monday, court band hona chahiye, ek hafta tak court band hona chahiye. Or you feel extremely irritable, psychomotor retardation, psych and body retardation, psychomotor excitation, irritability, itna gussa aata hai, apne aap ko kuch kar diya kisi ko. All those lot of irritable people at home who are blamed because they're irritable, most of them have depression which can be treated. The third symptom is, मुझे पिछली यादें बहुत आती है, मैंने ऐसा क्यों किया? A lot of guilt, and you're worried about the past. Depression. You're anxious about the future's anxiety. Tiredness and exhaustion without, all reports are normal. Tiredness and exhaustion without reason. Blaming yourself for things which you have not done. Poor concentration. I would read one page of the Times of India in half an hour. Now I can't read one page even in 4 hours. I can't go beyond 4 lines. Poor concentration. Sadness, crying spells, but crying should not be the only criteria. It is said a person who cries may not always be depressed, and a person who is depressed may not always choose to cry. So that is how it is. Also hopelessness, worthlessness, death wish. Yaar, Bhagwan, utha le yaar. Intent to die. weight loss, unexplained weight loss with all reports normal. Depression in COVID, post-COVID depression is very common, extremely common. And when you ask people about death and dying, earlier we were taught as young students of psychiatry that we should ask from periphery to center, कैसे लगता है, ऐसे लगता है कि जिंदगी अच्छी है, ऐसे लगता है कि आप न रहे तो अच्छा है, and then ask them आत्महत्या के विचार आते हैं क्या? That was under the realm of elicitation. Now it's under the realm of inquiry. We ask straight. आपको मरने की इच्छा आती है क्या? पूछने में किसी को मत, you don't inculcate the thought of dying. You are able to elicit people who are very depressed and help them. So sadness is probably a normal emotion, a positive emotion which is necessary. If you do not have emotional reactivity to events around, then that means there is something wrong. Depression is fracture of the mind. Switzerland or Science Dharavi appears the same. Nothing really helps you. Even a small task appears very cumbersome. You have intolerability to noise. Even if you have one symptom, you should screen yourself for depression. All medical checkups should have a psychologist who can screen the person for minor mental disorders or major mental disorders. Thank you, Vikas, for this beautiful question.
No, it was a question here posted on the YouTube, and I find that you're full of knowledge. One can only learn from you, and the more and more sessions like people from you who can take actually things forward in the right way, and once it is coupled with a partner like Justice Roshan Dalvi, and we would be looking forward the second part with Justice Roshan Dalvi on the soft skills on the legal perspective, where we have requested just Dr. Harish Shetty to give the introduction. And we all know that the way he takes things and explains, that itself would be a skill. I am not saying in what we talk of soft skills, the skill to keep people enamored, keep the people glued, people to hear, that's also a skill which one can only learn with a flux of time. And that's what, when we have the speakers like Dr. Harish Shetty and Justice Roshan Dalvi, that one can always hear and listen with awe. And with that, we part for the day. And once we start the next year, we start on a session with Mr. Sundar Mohan on 1st. Do join us at 5 p.m. Everyone stay safe, stay blessed. And meanwhile, Happy New Year in advance.
Thank you, everybody. Good day. Have a nice day. Have a nice year. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your for the opportunity and for your support and your blessings, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Vikas.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you.